Hey everybody, it's me Lone, and this is officially my first video since announcing that I'm no longer working at Bethesda as a community manager. If you missed that video, I will link it in the description below, and there I essentially announced that I've parted ways with the company and I'm moving forward both with a new job and also with a renewed focus on my YouTube channel, doing news and discussions videos like I used to do in the past. So I hope you're excited about that, because today we're starting off with a topic that is close to my heart, that being the future of the Fallout franchise, Fallout 5, and just generally where I'd like to see Fallout go from here. So if you enjoyed this video, please like it, I would really appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new, with notifications if that's possible. But with that out of the way, let's get to the content. Alrighty, so to begin this discussion properly, it's important to cover what BGS and specifically Todd Howard have already said about Fallout 5. In an interview with IGN Unfiltered, and if you missed that, I'll link it in the description below, but essentially there he was asked the question as to whether another developer outside of BGS would ever be allowed to work on a mainline Fallout game. And the response by Todd was, "I don't see, look, Fallout's really part of our DNA here. We've worked with other people from time to time, I can't say what's going to happen. You know, we have a one-pager on Fallout 5, what we want to do." So, at the very least, Todd Howard has confirmed that Fallout 5 is real, it's a thing, and it's going to happen. It is not just some ethereal hope like Fallout 4 used to be in the past. I don't know if you remember, but we didn't even know if that game was real or whether it was being worked on or whether it would ever be worked on. They were so secretive back then. BGS and even Bethesda generally were very secretive as to the projects they were working on, and a lot of that can be contributed to Todd Howard's desire to have a short announcement turnaround. So if you remember with Fallout 4, they announced it and about 6 months later they released the game. He really liked that short turnaround, but now Bethesda is much different. Like, we know Starfield's going to be releasing at the end of this year, and we know Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be the next big game after that. So presuming that's the cycle that they stick with, you're going to expect Fallout 5 after Elder Scrolls 6. Now, that begs the question as to when Fallout 5 is actually going to be released. Who really knows? Like, that was not information that I was ever made privy to, and even if it was, I wouldn't be allowed to talk about it on a video publicly. But still, when could Fallout 5 be released? If I was to have a guess, if BGS were to stick with their kind of traditional cycle, as I mentioned, of developing their games, you're going to have Starfield at the end of this year, and you're probably going to have Elder Scrolls 6 4 to 5 years after that. So that takes us to 2026 or 2027, and then probably 4 to 5 years after that, you would have Fallout 5. So that would take us to well into 2030, in my opinion. So that seems like a very, very long time away, but that's what would happen. Now, granted, BGS is not just one studio anymore. They've expanded, they have multiple studios across different cities, they have a bigger team than they used to have in the past. Does that mean we're going to get faster games from them? Or does it mean we're going to get bigger and more expensive games, but it's still at the same kind of pace of development? I'm leaning towards the latter. I don't think we're ever going to see Elder Scrolls 6, for instance, come out anywhere less than 4 years after Starfield. I just can't see that happening. Like, a game like that is going to be too big for it to have a 3-year development cycle. It just doesn't seem realistic. Yeah, of course, they've started some work on it now, like very minor, whatever Todd said publicly, but still, it's not going to be any less than 4 years in my opinion. Again, that's not information that I have personally, that's just my guess. And I would guess the same exact thing for Fallout 5, right? So if we're going to consider that's the development cycle, that's a very, very long time away, and it's something that I want to talk about in this video. I do want to talk about BGS and them working on a Fallout 5. That's something that I do want to happen, and I'll touch on that in a second. But just being a Fallout fan, I do want to see another Fallout game in between. Like, we have Fallout 76, it's still doing its thing. I'm going to make a separate video on Fallout 76. But at some stage, right, us as Fallout fans are going to have that desire and that urge to have something else to kind of tide us by until Fallout 5 is actually released. Like, 2030 or sometime into 2030 is a very long time. I'm going to be in my 40s, right? I'll be in my early 40s maybe by that stage until Fallout 5 is released. Again, if that's their cycle. Man, like that's a long, long time. And again, I still want BGS personally to work on Fallout 5, but I do want something else until then. So my desire, one of my big desires for Fallout and the future of the Fallout franchise is for BGS to allow another developer to work on a Fallout game. It doesn't have to be a mainline game, and this is an issue that I have with the question that IGN posed to Todd, right? Because the question, if you remember, was whether BGS would ever let another developer work on another mainline Fallout game, and by mainline Fallout game, you presume is Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout 5, etc., etc. That was instantly going to put Todd on the back foot, right? You know, as well as I do, that BGS is probably only going to be the ever developer to work on another mainline Fallout game ever again, so long as they keep the IP. I cannot see BGS being like, yeah, Obsidian, you're going to work on Fallout 5 now. That's just not going to happen. It's their baby. It's part of their DNA, as they said, or as Todd said. So I don't think that's ever going to happen in any kind of universe. So I do have an issue with how IGN phrased that question. I kind of wish that they would phrase it in a different way by saying, would you ever let another developer work on any kind of Fallout game in the future again? That to me is a much more interesting question and a much more likely question, because it could possibly mean we would have gotten an answer as to whether some other developer could work on a Fallout spin-off or another Fallout game in general. Like whether you consider New Vegas a spin-off or not, technically it's not a mainline game, but we got Obsidian working on New Vegas. Can't we get something similar until Fallout 5 is a thing, to tide us over until then? I wish they had asked that question. They didn't, so we're here speculating and guessing. But that is what I would like to see. As to who would develop it, obviously Obsidian is very well placed. I think the best bet is any developer that's within the Microsoft family, because as we know, Bethesda was acquired by Microsoft. I feel like they would look internally within Microsoft to see who was best placed to work on another Fallout game, whether it's an open world RPG like New Vegas was, right, or whether it was like an isometric, whatever it might be. I think the best bet is them looking internally within Microsoft to find that developer. And of course you have Obsidian right there, so it makes a lot of sense. They've worked with them in the past. They made a great game in Fallout New Vegas, many people's favorite game of all time, right? Not just a favorite Fallout game. It's an incredible title, and I personally want to see what, Obsidian would do with another Fallout game. New Vegas was freaking awesome. I love that game so much, and just because of the short development cycle of that game and the turnaround with that game, it was like 18 months or something. It's not to say that there were ideas that were left unfinished, but there actually were a few ideas left on the cutting room table. But there's still so much potential with that game, and so many places that game could have gone if they had a longer development cycle. So I really want to see Obsidian or someone else within the Microsoft family just get the opportunity for 3, 4, however many years that they need to work on a big Fallout spin-off game. I still want to see an open world RPG, so give someone within the Microsoft team a chance to work on the next Fallout game, a spin-off of some kind. I would really like that. New engine, the Starfield engine. I think it would be an amazing thing. But I don't know whether that's going to happen. Like, with that new engine in mind and whatever improvements that they do to it until Elder Scrolls 6, you probably expect that Todd would want to be the one that, makes the next game, next Fallout game, utilizing that new engine. Probably. I just hope that someone else gets the chance to do it, because the Fallout fan in me can't wait that long. I don't want to wait another 8, 9, 10 years until I'm in my 40s for the next Fallout game. I just want something to be able to play, and also something that is a single player RPG. And that's what we're going to talk about now when it comes to Fallout 5 and what I would like to see. So I do want to see BGS work on Fallout 5. Like, I love BGS. I love the games that they make. And to this day, Fallout 3 is still my favorite game of all time. It's not a game that I can just kind of pass off and say, it's not the best. I still think it's the best game of all time, in my opinion, for me. And I'm very biased, and I admit that. But still, I want to see what they can do with another Fallout game like Fallout 5. Fallout 4, it has some division. They tried some new ideas, like with the voice protagonist and whatnot. I still really like that game. But even then, like, you look at Fallout 4 and the engine that they used, like, if you take the upgraded Starfield engine and then the upgraded Elder Scrolls 6 engine, right, and just with how game development is so much different nowadays with much better technology and all the resources that Bethesda now has within Microsoft, Fallout 5 would be freaking awesome developed by Bethesda Game Studios. I would really love to see them do that. Let's go back to the roots. Let's have a single player RPG, no online elements, no multiplayer elements. We'll talk about Fallout 76 in another video. I love that game, right? Don't get me wrong. But I want to see the franchise go back to its roots a little bit, be a single player RPG. And also as well, let's mix up things a little bit. Like, let's have some new factions, some new enemies. We've seen the Brotherhood of Steel, and I love them so much. We've seen them a lot, right? We've seen super mutants a lot. We've seen the NCR and the Enclave a lot. I would really like to see some new factions and some new characters and new enemies and whatnot come to light and be the stars of the show. We can still have the Brotherhood of Steel in some form. We can still have the Enclave in some form. But I want to see something a little bit different. Not vastly different. I still want it set in the USA, for instance. I still want it to have that Americana 1940s and 50s theme, for instance. But I do want to see the formula shaken up in some ways. I'll give you an example, right? You look at Fallout 4 and Fallout 3. They start off in fairly similar ways. You're in a vault, your family member goes missing, you go out to find them, and they broaden up after that point. but I do want to see that kind of traditional formula shaken up just a tad, but also for it to still feel very, very much like Fallout. So I do want that. I do want BGS to work on Fallout 5, but I still do want a spin-off of some kind from another developer. And then I have some other ideas as well, but honestly, at this stage, we're just speculating, and I wanted to keep it as high level as possible in this video. So please let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's get to the conclusion. Alrighty, Wastelanders, that is all from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I apologize if I was a bit shaky throughout this video, and that's because I haven't recorded a discussions video in over 3.5 years. It's going to take me a few weeks and a few months to get back on my feet and get used to this kind of content. So again, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts as always. And until next time, this has been Lone. Please take care of yourselves, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.